lovelies. Welcome back to another video and to our channel. It's me, Louise, and Winnie that is right next to me. So you might hear her once in a while if she sticks around through this endeavor. Nope, she's gone. See ya, I guess. Anyway, welcome back to another episode, oh my gosh, of Let Loose with Louise, featuring me, Louise. And I don't remember, is this ASMR? Yes, it's ASMR. Sometimes I get this series confused with my real life with Louise on Patreon, and they all get jumbled in my head. But welcome to the first episode in the new house, in this new little setup. I'm pretty cozy, just lounging here, and yeah, I hope you guys like this vibe, like this atmosphere. And I'm just gonna be holding this mic today because I kind of just want to feel like I'm on a talk show. And that's what we're frickin' doing. So yes, if you don't know what this is a little series that I like to do on my channel that I started a few months ago, just to let frickin' loose and not really make a constructed ASMR video, a roleplay, anything like that. This is just a little rambly, relaxing, almost like podcast, if you will, a mini podcast, that's what I call it, where I just tell you my thoughts on certain things, on certain subjects, and you can always leave me suggestions on what you want me to talk about down below in the comments. Okay? Sound good? Cool. Now let's get into today's topic, because I'm really excited about this one. It's been on my mind for months, actually. And it's been really heavy on my heart for a while now, because it's something that I just really connect with and resonate with a lot, and that is setting boundaries. And you know what? I know every single person out there has had to do this at least once in their life, whether they realized it or not. Or even if you knew that's what you were doing or not, you definitely have. And I just kind of want to talk about it and tell you some of my experiences and the way that I do it, and the way that I not think it should be done, but kind of validating that it's okay to do that. Because I know there are just a lot of people out there that think it's a negative thing, or they don't really understand or how to do it, or they're basically gaslit into believing that boundaries aren't a thing. Yeah, that's not real, and you're a bad person if you do it, which is totally wrong. So get cozy, get a blanket, just hang out with me for a little bit, and let's talk boundaries. Okay, let's dive into it here. So, boundaries, just plain and simple, is a line that you create for pretty much everyone in your life. And if they overstep that, if they cross that line, then you start to feel uncomfortable, anxious, just like that's not it, that's not okay. And we do that every day, or at least we should be. And when I first really started thinking about boundaries, I didn't understand. I thought of it as a bad thing, and I was like, why do I want to, set these boundaries? Because I'm basically setting myself and other people around me up for failure, and it's just not true. Boundaries you know, they can be big and they can be really small. And you should basically have a boundary with everyone. But that doesn't mean you have to instigate or bring it up all the time, or like just or be aware of it so much. Like if I had a boundary with Stacy, and my boundary with her is, okay, we hang out a lot, we do all these things, and it's so much fun, but if she tries to get me to stay out late, again, like she always does, and like she tries to do, that is my boundary, and I will be, you know, telling her no. I will be annoyed. I will be like, Stacy, you can't do that. And so that's how boundaries are created. You know, if someone, you know, close to you understands you and your personality and, you know, your beliefs, or maybe your comfort levels, your comfort zone, whatever it is, and they know this about you, or they've learned it over time, and they still constantly try to poke or get you to go against that that thought or belief, you know, they're crossing your line, they're crossing the boundary. So no, Stacy, I'm not gonna stay out late with you. I've told you multiple times no, and you're disrespecting me in the boundary. And I want to say this, it doesn't always have to be so freaking like rude. Because boundaries aren't meant to be rude. They're not meant to be like a stuck up way of saying, oh, no, like you are not, you know, you're disrespecting me. You don't like, you know, you don't respect me. You don't respect my boundary, blah, blah, blah. They could get to that point, but they're not supposed to be. They don't have to be. You know, it can be as simple as, hey, I have told you no. Or, you know, like this, what you're doing, what you're saying, your actions, they're overstepping my boundary. And that's just, it is what it is. And learning that throughout life is very important. Because when I was a kid, when I was young, in high school, even after high school, I always thought, like, why? I want to be around people. I, you know, want to be involved in things. I want to talk to people. I don't want to set up these rules and boundaries and guidelines for everyone to follow, because I'm not trying to be, you know, difficult. You don't want to be difficult, right? You want everyone to like you. You want to please everybody. It's not realistic. And as a kid, you're not supposed to completely understand that. You know, you want to be liked. That's normal. You want to be involved in things. That's normal. But, I mean, you learn that as you grow up, as you get older. But not really implementing those, you know, things in my life back then. I really only started understanding boundaries as, you know, when I was in my early 20s. And that was crazy. And that was difficult to navigate for a bit, because it really started an inner argument with myself where I'm like, okay, am I being difficult? Am I being boring? Am I being lame? Am I being too much by saying no and setting a line and a boundary? I'm drawing it right here. And does that make me a bad person? Does that make me the problem? And those are all internal questions that, you know, honestly, it's kind of like a day-by-day thing. Like, does this boundary make sense? Or am I just in my comfort zone and they are trying to, help me grow or help me learn from something. And I'm just like, no, 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 I'm scared, or whatever the case is. Like, a boundary is a boundary, whether it's for a good reason or whether it's just a comfort thing, or you might not even understand it, but you're setting that boundary. And yeah, I mean, it could be anything from actions to conversations to, like maybe you're hanging out with someone too long and you start to get tired or overwhelmed or stressed out, and you just want to go home, and they're making you feel bad about that, and they're just not respecting your boundary. And like I said, it's not all personal. Sometimes it doesn't even matter who it's with. Like, for me personally, I have so many boundaries, but not, not to the point where I'm just, dumb or hard to please or hard to work with or difficult to be around. Again, I've just learned that in day-to-day life, it's very normal to have your limits. I think limits and boundaries can go in the same sentence, right? And, maybe we can think about some of mine to give you a little bit of an idea. And maybe you can start thinking about yours too. And I mean, I qualify all of these as boundaries. You might not. But, like, I get socially drained very quickly. And that's not because I don't like being around people. I do. And I give so much of myself when I am social that I can only do it, for a certain amount of time every day. And my social battery, I call it a battery. If you're using, your mind, you're using your energy, and you're speaking, and you're physically moving your mouth too, it's slowly starting to drain your battery. So I can only do so much of it. And there are some people in my life whom don't really either understand that, or don't acknowledge that, like, understanding that it's okay to stop, and it's okay to, continue being social another day, or they might be talking my ear off and I am just checking out, and they are just, I have a boundary, I have a limit, and they're still trying to cross it. That is a very non-malicious thing. They're not doing it on purpose. They're not trying to be like rude or hurtful, but it's still a boundary, and it's still a thing where it's like, okay, stop. And respect that for me, and I need to respect that for myself as well. And then there can be, a complete other side of things where, I used to overstretch myself so thin to try to please people in my life, to try to please friends, and really, really toxic people in my life who never, they themselves were just very, they didn't care too much about other people, and those are the people that you need to set boundaries with. They're the people who are so caught up in their own lives and their own issues, and it's almost like they need energy from other people and like sucking the life out of people to make themselves feel good or feel better or feel energized. And I've definitely had a few of those, and I had to set boundaries. That means if they were hitting me up late at night to come do something dangerous with them, something that I didn't want to do, something that didn't feel right, and they were making me feel bad about saying no, that is them crossing my boundary. That is me setting something and them completely disrespecting it, whether they're trying to be funny or silly or stupid, whatever it is. That is more of a disrespectful way of crossing a boundary. Something that, you know, if they're your friend or if they're close to you, they should take the time to like really understand why you say no and why this might not be something that you want to do or that you don't appreciate, or you just simply, you know, you don't have a tolerance to. And everybody has them. Everybody has it. It's just about knowing, you know, knowing where it lies. Like, okay, if someone does something a few times, okay, sure, they might just not understand, they might not know, and then you tell them, okay, like, hey, this is, you know, I'm not trying to be mean, I just want to let you know that this is my boundary, you know, I get really uncomfortable, or it doesn't make me feel right when you do this or say this, or when this happens, so, you know, I'm just letting you know, this is my boundary. It only takes one time to have a real conversation like that, and then anything after that is blatant, you know, they're not respecting your boundary. So I've had a few instances like that, and I mean just everyday life too. Like, so if you really want to narrow in on boundaries, it's good to have them in just everyday life with your everyday people. So it's good to have boundaries with family. You know, you might talk to your brother about something, but you might not talk to your mom about it. And, you know, any way you want to put it, there are things that you can do with your best friend that you're not going to do with your dad or talk about with your dad. And it's because you have those, you know, those relationships all work in different ways. And that is why there are some people in, you know, in your life, your friends, your family, your partner, who just, they need to really understand like who you are and your just what's important to you. So there are some things that, you know, I would talk about with my partner. But if my, you know, my parents or you know, their parents get involved in that same conversation, that would be overstepping a boundary. There's some things that, you know, if you're just clearly not comfortable talking about or being in a situation with certain people and they are trying to force you into that, that is a perfect example of just not respecting a boundary. You know, and I've had that as well. You know, and I guess I just never really thought of the word for it or making it a term. But yeah, just when someone is pushing you or trying to get you to talk about something, or trying to, you know, preach to you. The preaching is a big thing, or making you feel like you don't know something or understand something, and they're making you feel bad. They're making you feel dumb, sad, just, you know, not good enough, not as good as them. You know, that's completely overstepping, and you're fully in the right to be like, okay, no, this is done. You know, you went too far. And that is so healthy. That is a good thing to acknowledge. And I just, it's so important to realize that it's okay to know these things about yourself. You're not a bad person for having limits and setting boundaries. You're so much more in touch with who you are and your mind and your heart that, like, this is a good thing. And a lot of people do respect and appreciate, you know, people having boundaries. And it's becoming more and more common and talked about and acceptable to just be like, okay, this person isn't rude, this person isn't hard to deal with, they're just simply like stating, and they know how much that they can or they're willing to handle, and that's it. And so I encourage you, if you haven't already, to just really think about what that means and think about how you can implement them in your life. And like I said, they don't have to be big and bad and crazy and you're like, okay, after 60 minutes of talking, that's my boundary, like no more. You know, they're so specific to each person and each situation. That's, you know, that's something really important to know. And just like in arguments, like my partner, he knows my boundaries. He knows where not to go. And I think it's just easier to have boundaries with people that you just are close with, because strangers aren't going to know your boundaries, like duh. But your partner, your, you know, your sibling, your best friend, like they should at least attempt to understand you and your boundaries. Yeah, like Noah, he knows when to cut it off. He knows when I'm getting overwhelmed. He knows when I'm overstimulated. He knows when I need a breath. And that is a great thing. That is so freaking important and healthy, because it saves so much time, energy, frustration, and like relationships. No matter what kind of relationship it is. It's understanding and respecting the other person that you're, you know, communicating with. And I mean, it also includes work. It includes, I mean, coworkers. It includes people that you interact with at work. And, you know, I was in a few situations involving work that it felt like my personal life and my work life were being merged together, and the line was so blurry that it was almost like, okay, I needed to take a step back and reevaluate where to set that boundary. Like, okay, I might talk to these people, I might work with them, I might, you know, they watch my work, they communicate with me, they interact with me, but that needs to shut off at a certain time, and then my personal life follows. And that is totally separate. They're totally two separate things. And that is such an important boundary to set for yourself and for them. And that's something I had to learn as recent as like last year. It was just, or maybe earlier this year. Yeah, like just knowing that cutoff of, okay, this is work life, this is personal life, this is family life, this is friends. Like, they're just completely different things that all have their own boundaries. So that one was really big for me. So yeah, what do you guys think? Do you guys have those boundaries set in place? Or is this something that's completely new to you too? How do you go about it? Do you have a rule that you follow? Like how me and my social battery, I also have a work battery. I just basically have a day battery. Like if I'm at 100% at the beginning of the day, I can't get, I by the end of the day, I still need to have at least 50% left for the evening and like for after work. Okay, we can't just spend it all during the day and at work and work hours. It's not a thing. It's impossible. It's not healthy. And like I said, it's a base by base thing. Something that works for me, or I believe might not be the same for you. So that's what I'm asking. Just let me know, enlighten me in different boundaries that you set or ways that you keep things in check, things in line. And what do you do when you do feel like a line has been crossed, or along those lines, basically. I'd love to hear it, because this is something I'm practicing and learning every single day. And I will continue all the way until the ripe age of 101. And then after that, I'm good to go. Yeah, that's all I really wanted to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments. Let's just have a good conversation down there. Because, again, this one was very important to me, and you're not alone if you feel like you are just difficult, or people don't understand what boundaries are, which is so stupid. We all know what boundaries are, come on. Boundaries don't have to be insane to be a boundary, okay? Let's normalize it so much more. But thank you for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. 3 things. That's all you gotta do. 3 things. Yeah, and I will see you